2024 portion of the schedule tonight at home against the Charlotte Hornets. Kings got a bad basketball team rolling into town on the second night of a back-to-back. So should be one the Kings should be feeling a bit good about, quite honestly. So we will see what happens with that. We've got the numbers for you. We've got who's in, who's out, and much more. Thanks for being here. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. This is the pregame show on If You Don't Like That.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter, stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball.
Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Foley. That is a major league smush.
Good evening, everybody watching out there on YouTube, Twitter, Live. We appreciate it. And good evening to you as well. Absolutely. We'll get the correction up. I said evenings. I'm looking there. But yeah, happy to have you here. Let's start off with Sports Freak. He gets it in. He's talking about what team's going to show up tonight in Sacramento. We're going to see the Kings team that dominates when they win basketball games, play 20 points better in wins, or are we going to see a basketball game like the Kings saw in Portland? The Kings really not any issues in Memphis, although a lot about that game to talk about coming out of it, specifically the change at the two-guard position and how that affects Mike Brown's bench and how that affects the rotations and such. But a lot to look forward to for this Sacramento team, especially with this next stretch of basketball coming up. So it should be interesting. Bri 916, welcome to the show. Kings tend to play down to their competition. Hopefully they can be up by 15 or 20 at halftime. That would be great. And we kind of saw it coming in the first half, at the end of the first half against Memphis. And then the third quarter, Memphis did not stand a chance against Sacramento's offense and pace, and Kings end up blowing them out. And 92 points, that is a low number, even for the worst scoring team in the NBA in Memphis. But, if you're Mike Brown, you build upon that, and you got to get a little bit of that to carry over tonight against this Charlotte Hornets team. And a Charlotte Hornets team, think about this, last season, they kind of gave the Kings a little bit more that they could handle. So there's something to it, guys. Bri, you're right. There's something to the Kings playing down to their competition, although we cannot always quantify it. Carf, what's up, man? Get you in here. Hornets are not good road team. Kings should win this game. Possible trap game, though. Yeah, and, I would almost argue any game right now is a trap game for this Kings team, simply because it doesn't matter who this Kings team plays. That Kings team that is most important that they're playing is themselves. And if the Kings show up and play good basketball like we saw last game in Memphis, okay, they have won that battle. Nobody is going to beat them on that night. So until they show us different, where we see tiers, we see there's in-between things with styles of play and how this team can win. We see close games, whether the Kings come out on top or not. Those are the things that I want to see this team grow. Mark, what's up? Happy to have you here on the show. Hey, let's get to this really quick. Want to do a little tail of the tape here for everybody via The Athletic. Thank you to them. So just a little rundown of the game tonight. Hornets, as we talked about, 13th in the East, 7-24 overall. Sacramento heavy favorites tonight, 14.5 points if action is your thing. The Kings, you see, they have advantages in most of the major categories that lead to wins for this team. So really, the Hornets they're one of those teams that they're individually, they have some very good talent. Don't get us wrong. And Terry Rozier is somebody that's important to what the Hornets do. Terry was sick, but it looks like he is available. That is just breaking here in the last 20 or 30 minutes. So he'll be giving it a go for the Charlotte Hornets tonight. But, assists, clear advantage there, 3.5 to the Kings. You look at scoring and points against per game. So the Kings really should, again, this is a game on paper. The Kings should compete without issue. So hopefully that is what we'll see with this team tonight. But again, Charlotte Hornets, different Eastern Conference. It is a much different team dealing with injuries. They're still trying to get right, trying to get a core together that can kind of, they can be something, right? And when I say be something, I don't want to say grow around them, but be something, or at least show be that light that shows a path forward for how this team wants to play. Because when LaMelo Ball is in the game, he produces, and he is a very, very positive influence on the style of basketball that team wants to play. He dictates it. The rest of his teammates follow. But again, tonight, the Kings, normal stuff. We talk about the consistency across the board. Yes, the Kings do need to be more consistent. But the same change tonight. Mike Brown, he's going to be going with Chris Duarte in the starting lineup. And a lot of the reports are suggesting that Mike Brown's going to go with a small sample size or a sample size to see if it's going to be a permanent change. But so that's something to keep your eye on as you're watching the game throughout. Does Kevin Huerter get some of those same opportunities, and can he find a way to impact the second unit in a way he was not impacting the first unit? Maybe some weight is lifted off Kevin Huerter's shoulders. Maybe, hey, shut up, Rhino. What are we talking about? We're talking about a guard that's not producing right now. We're talking about Chris Duarte, who's just a different guy there. Different strengths than Kevin, but gives you a little bit more scrappiness, which many argue this Kings team needs to have that increased scrappiness to take this thing to the next level. Also want to kind of talk about what the Kings have in store coming up in the next 24 hours, because we're talking about Charlotte being on the other end of a back-to-back. Here we go. The Kings are on another end of the back-to-backs here. This will be the first end of a back-to-back. So we can just start right there at the bottom, and we see the Kings have not won a single back-to-back game yet this season. So the Kings want to go into this one and maybe get some rest on their starters. There's a thought. Have this game out of reach for Charlotte. That's what good teams do. The Kings, and they did this in Memphis, and that's why we say they are a good team when they win. But good teams, once they get that lead, they don't give you the lead back, and they still maintain the pace of the game. They dictate how the game's going to be played, regardless of being up 2 or 25. So that's what we want to see in games like this, or a lot of people, Kings fans, have been wanting to see. So keep that in mind. We'll talk a lot more about that as the night goes on. But we look at the Kings' win-loss records and the differentials in how they are playing this season, most notably the 25 or nearly 25-point difference in scoring in wins and losses. The Kings looking to right that ship, find something a little bit more in the middle, but it's a little too dramatic, and it starts right there with the three-point shooting percentage. That three ball is not going down in a lot of those losses compared to the three ball going down in Kings wins. But overall, for this Sacramento team on the season, we keep looking at their net average, right? What does that tell us? Usually teams are in the positive. The Kings are in the positive, just not by very much, at a 0.8 right now. Your better teams, your top tier contender teams, they have a net average that's more in the 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Sometimes they can get up there. So all good things for the Kings. And again, a lot to be happy about if you are a Kings fan. Kings getting ready tonight to take on the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte coming off of a loss most recently against the world champion Denver Nuggets on the road, 111-93. they got, you have to say, their starters produced in that game for Charlotte. Brandon Miller, he gives them 15. Then you got Miles Bridges, another guy who seems to be popping up every now and again in trade talks for the Kings. He contributes 26 in their loss, but they just play. They play every night. It's a different game for them. They are playing a different game. They're playing for contracts. They're playing to put their names out there. They don't have that same team goal that some of these other teams in the NBA have. But that's okay to recognize that, and that's okay to have that mindset. But that's when those teams become spoilers, and that's the ones that you have to be scared about because their records might not actually show how good of a basketball team they can be when they click. So it's a typical Sacramento thing. Look, the Kings return back home. They win 2 of 3 on this latest swing, and they go into this next stretch of games, I think, with a lot of confidence. And if they don't, then we start to look what that next change may be. Does Mike Brown start looking at Harrison's position? Who knows? We will see. Hopefully we don't have to come to that. But as for this, so far, with the change to Kevin Huerter being moved out of the starting lineup, the Kings are 1-0. A lot of debate still left on that bone, whether it has made a lot of difference, but time will tell as we continue watching and we get ready tonight for the game. The Charlotte Hornets in town at the G1C, getting ready for your Sacramento Kings. And thank you to all of you, by the way, who showed up on New Year's Eve and were here for the different programming. It was great having Jerry on at halftime. And by the way, Grant and Jerry, they're in the if you don't like that green room right now, getting ready for halftime to break things down for you tonight. And then Grant and I will have the post-game show together as well. But thanks to everybody that was here on New Year's Eve. It was a lot of fun getting your resolutions for the Kings and going through those and having some of you call in. So really cool stuff. Michael Guerrero ended up winning the Bennett's gift card with the resolution of being better on back-to-back games, win back-to-back games. And I chose win back-to-back games because great teams, that's what they do. They don't even look at a back-to-back game like a back-to-back, or they don't look at back-to-back games like bad teams or certain teams struggling with them look at it. It's just games. You play the games put in front of you, and you have the ultimate confidence that you are going to win regardless. So I want to see the Kings with that swagger. I want to see this fan base with that same confidence in their team, instead of that little pit in your stomach, like you just drop down that hill when you see the back-to-back on the schedule for this incarnation of the 23-24 Sacramento Kings. Loving all your comments. Keep getting these in. I am happy to have all of you guys here. Matthew chiming in with looking for Mitchell and McGee to get quality minutes tonight. I don't know if it's going to be McGee. I still think it's going to be Alex Len. But it might be. It really depends on how Mike Brown feels they match up with that second unit of the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, the Hornets, not terribly huge. They got Nick Richards in there at center right now, and he had 15 the other night in a loss against Denver, and tough assignment for him having to guard the Joker. Can't take anything away from him, but 7 for 12. That's not too bad from the field playing against the MVP in the Joker out in Denver. So, yeah, I think that Davion, he's worked his way back into the rotation. He has for now, but these rotations have ebbs and flows, and even Keon Ellis. You got to remember, he's a two-way contract guy. So that means he is not a full contract, a full roster spot on this Kings roster, meaning come the playoffs, he's not eligible unless the Kings make Keon Ellis a full roster player. So moves that still need to be made, a lot up in the air, a lot of talk about, but a good place to be as Kings fans. And Mitchell, he will get some run tonight. That is for sure. And I like the combination, by the way, Mitchell and Huerter on the court. For whatever reason, it looked good yesterday or 2 days ago. I can't put my finger on it. The numbers, the plus minus doesn't quantify it, but it just felt like the spacing for that second unit was better. whether they were scoring the ball or not. Thank you, Ash. I appreciate that very much. Do you think the Kings will win 50-plus games this season? I'm going to stick with my initial number. I had 50 on the button. I know Connor 209 came in and gave his resolution and then also answered the same question. I think it's going to be right there. I hope this team's been through the worst of their injuries and time missed for players that dramatically change the floor when they are playing the game. So I think they get to 50. I do. I just a team this good. Let's come a little closer really quick. Let's have serious talk here. A team this good and this close shouldn't be this inconsistent. But a team this good, sometimes a little tinker here, a little tinker there can make the biggest difference in a world. So what I'm saying to you is right now is the time that decision is going to be made, whether this team is good enough to acquire that next player that takes them to the next level and what they're willing to give up. So don't forget, this could be as much of a tryout for Kevin Huerter right now. Getting more minutes with that second unit could be a tryout for him. Getting ready to try to trade him. Think about that for a second. So I'm one of those guys. I will have these conversations with you guys. But I know Grant doesn't like having the fantasy questions, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's a meaning behind everything. But this team's close. But it's just, do they make that right decision? Ash, your speech during the show has sounded so smooth, bro. Keep up the good work. I appreciate it. Thank you. Trying to get more comfortable. Would like your thoughts on the Kings signing a backup point guard that's a 3-and-D guy when not making assists, so Monk doesn't have to initiate drives to the paint, so we can focus on shooting talent. Yeah, it's again, where is it on the list of priorities? Grant and I have been calling for that for a really long time. Since last season, hasn't happened. Mike Brown still doesn't know who that person is. So I do, but I don't think it's the most immediate need for this team this year. So could you go in and get an Alex Caruso type of player? Could you get that guy that can guard multiple positions? He could play that point guard role for you. Sure. Does that make your team better? I think so. It does, depending on what you gave up for him. And remember, teams are going to be so much more motivated by picks going into the new CBA. Draft picks are going to be at a premium because you are guaranteed a salary rate for 3 to 4, 5 years with team options as a rookie. And it's a lower salary rate depending on where you were drafted. So that's friendly to the teams. That keeps them under the different tiers of that threshold to try to make things a little bit more competitive. So anyways, all right, let's start getting some predictions in here, by the way. Kings predictions. Give me the full game. Grant and Jerry are going to ask for them here at halftime, but give me your predictions. I want to see some of those. Yeah, you guys are doing great. Yeah, take the inside and outside swing on. Take inside and outside swing on by. Interesting. Not sure what that means. Swinging the ball, maybe. Please appreciate you guys. Like it. If you have not already, we would really like that. Grant would really appreciate that. Also, please subscribe if you have not already. We'll pop up on your timeline when you go on YouTube and you'll see when we've done a show. We would appreciate that. Doesn't charge you we don't charge you anything. Just want to provide good Kings content for everybody here and do it different. So we're always open to your suggestions. Do not forget to always reach out to us via social media or our email addresses that we always put up from time to time. LaMelo, here we go. Cody's just throwing it all out there. Yep. Terry Rozier is in. That's the most important thing right there about this Charlotte Hornets team. Terry Rozier is in. One guy I've always liked is Jordan Clarkson. Would you love to see him on the Kings? I'm not sure. I feel like Jordan Clarkson would be a love-hate relationship with this offense. Oh, man. Because Clarkson, he's showing the ability to play more in that free flow style. But when I think of him, I think isolation. And he's not as fast as De'Aaron. And I don't want to compare anybody to De'Aaron that would be coming in to back him up. But I don't think it's even close to be able to do what the Kings want to do. He does give you increased shooting, streaky shooting, but absolutely. What are your thoughts on acquiring Ben Simmons, top 5 defender? Walt, it's got to be, first off, the price has to be right. That's number one. And if you are going to acquire Ben Simmons, you have to operate under, at least it's a safe assumption to operate under the assumption that something wrong is going to happen throughout his time here, and you need to plan out for all these potential scenarios and hope for the best that doesn't happen. But you would have to monitor him really closely. I think he would help out greatly. He fits into what this Sacramento team does in terms of, long, lengthy deflections at times, offensive rebounding, very good. So yeah, he would play well. He would play well. He certainly would be running the break probably better than Sabonis, and Sabonis doesn't do it bad for a big man. Baki, what is up? Burgers on you if we win tonight? No way. Dude, we're going to hold you to that. Scores, 126, 115, 217, 111. Nice, Johnny boy. Condog, 209, 131, 115. Everybody's going to the 130s. Remember, guys, wins and losses right here. 125 is the average in Kings wins for this team. So we will see if that holds true. This is a good point, Cody. This is a great point. He is on that list. PJ Washington is on that list. He only had 6 points in their last game against Denver, but he has been known to cause a little bit of problems for Sacramento. Well done by you. Sports Freak, he's going 118, 105. Yeah, John, I figured, buddy. 127, 111. John's just the best. Lance, what's up, man? You always keep it real. I try my best. Thoughts on Herter? I don't think he's as bad as fans think. Also, not as great of a shooter as Kings broadcasters claim. No, I think there's different types of great shooters. So think about your Kyle Kuzmas, take them over here, and then take your Steph Currys over here. Beautiful, amazing, top 25 Steph best shooter of all time, but top 25 in that discussion shooters of all time, right? They're completely different. One's a stop shooter or just a spot up shooter for much of those shots. The other is running around everywhere. So I think Kevin's more of a spot shooter, but he's been asked to adapt and run around everywhere. I think that it's not been an effort thing with Kevin Herter. I think that Kevin has actually done the best he can do with how he is, just how he's built, how he plays as a basketball player. I think the Kings have maxed out what they can get from him in this system. So that's the caveat. And this is the big thing, Lance. Kevin Herter, and be ready for this, Kings fans. If he's on the way out of Sacramento and he goes to a team that needs a spot-up shooter like him, that needs somebody that's 6'6", can get up and down the floor, he can have great success. And you're going to be like, well, why wasn't he doing that in Sacramento all the time? It's because he would have been doing different things for a different team in a different type of system. So that could happen. So that is my idea of what's going on with Kevin. But I think he is a very, very good shooter. We have to be safe about that. So Herder 0 dash all other points. BJ Sal 121-109 Kings. What's the average point total in? Sorry about that. Which average point total in losses? 105.8 is the average point total in losses. So you go right here. You got wins, you got losses. Kings got 19 of the big wins, 125 points per game. In the Kings, 12 losses, 105.8 points per game. So, changes things, right? Changes things a lot. All right, Jerry Reynolds, Grant Napier, right here, halftime. That should be fun. First time we're going to have him here, or have both of them here in the new year. And then Grant and I will wrap things up at the end of the night. I appreciate all of you for being here on the pregame show. Don't forget, thumbs up, please, if you haven't already. And make sure that you subscribe and come back at halftime. We are the place for your Kings coverage right here on If You Don't Like That. Go Kings, light the beam. Jerry Reynolds, Grant Napier, right here at the half.